Hello and welcome back to Whereabouts, the channel where we discuss fashion and how you can use it to fully express yourself. Today, I wanted to talk about personal style and specifically why you should dress in your own personal style. But I didn't just want to rely on anecdotal evidence because that's easily dismissed. I wanted to look at the research and see what the science, what the science has to say about dressing in your own personal style. This is the closest I have to a lab coat. Humans are visual creatures. What we see has an impression on us. This includes what we see in ourselves, in other people, and in our environment generally. How you dress is often the strongest impression that you give. And so how you dress affects your relationship with yourself and with other people. What we see in our external environment does filter into our internal state. Now, I want to focus on the research in this video, but don't want to dismiss the power of personal experience. So to prove that our external state has an impact on us, I want to conduct a little experiment with you. Take a moment to pause the video and fix something in your immediate environment. Maybe a cup needs to go to the kitchen, your curtains need to be adjusted, a window needs to be opened. When you come back, observe how you feel. If you're anything like me, it will have made a difference, even if just a little bit. Consider now that our clothes are one of the most personal aspects of our environment and a constant throughout the day. It then makes sense that what we're wearing has a huge impact on how we feel. But exactly what impact do they have? There's a group of very interesting men in the Congo called the Sapua Dandies, and essentially they dedicate their lives and a very large portion of their finances to dressing well. I think one of them summarized it perfectly when he said that wearing proper clothes feeds the soul and gives pleasure to the body. And I can highly recommend watching a documentary on them. I've linked one below. When we dress well, particularly in a way that respects who we are and our inherent value, it's a great source of meaning, satisfaction, and positivity in our lives. Here's where the science comes in, and I've linked all the studies that I used below in the description box in case you're curious and you want some extra reading. First, let's establish that dress has a definite impact on how we see ourselves. An interesting example is Hanover and Kunin's 2002 study, in which they asked participants to wear either formal or casual attire and then quickly describe themselves. Those that were wearing casual attire used casual adjectives, and those that were wearing formal attire used formal adjectives. In 2012, Adam and Galinsky conducted an experiment with a lab coat in which participants were asked to perform attention-related tasks while wearing and not wearing the coat. Some participants were told it was a doctor's coat, and some participants were told it was a painter's coat. Those participants who were wearing the doctor's coat performed better than those who were wearing the painter's coat, demonstrating that when we wear clothes that have a certain meaning to us, it affects how we perceive ourselves and how we perform in our lives. These are just two examples out of several studies that suggest as a whole, our clothes do impact our image of ourselves. There are other studies demonstrating that when we dress in a style that is true to who we actually are, it will affirm our image of ourselves and, again, affect how we live our lives. As Massouf and Heffron wrote in their 2014 study, dressing with integrity to oneself was an excellent means to nurture positive feelings of satisfaction and authenticity, which allowed respondents to enter the social sphere in a self-assured and confident manner. Bingelite and Kataru had similar findings in their 2021 paper, in which participants discussed feeling self-assured and self-satisfied when they dressed in a way they felt authentically expressed themselves. That same study also highlighted that our style is a fantastic way to embody not only who we are now, but also our aspirational or ideal selves, assisting us with confidence when taking on new roles, challenges, or even everyday tasks. Bingelite and Kataru recorded a participant describing her changing style. I am currently pregnant. I don't want to look sexy. I want to look more or less like soft, like something a mother would look like. Just anecdotally, whenever I wanted to absolutely kill it in an exam, I would get really dressed up in something that made me feel like me. Sequins, fringe skirts, shoes with stars on them, anything to make me feel my best. And it worked. When I looked good, I felt good, and I performed well in those tests. Oftentimes, personal style is flattering not only to our personality, but to our bodies as well. Unsurprisingly, when we dress in a style that flatters our bodies, it also assists with managing our mood. particularly because it gives us a means to control our body image. As studies by Kang, Johnson and Kim in 2013 and Massouf and Heffron in 2014 show, clothes allow us to camouflage on bad days and accentuate ourselves on good days, strategically hide our less flattering features while celebrating others. Massouf and Heffron also found that when you pay homage to your personal style when getting dressed, the act of getting dressed itself can become a mental health preserving ritual, me time. When dressing in your own personal style, getting dressed becomes a visual reminder of who you are and the prosperity of time, resources, and creative skill available to you. It's a small celebration of who you are, and it encourages an abundance mindset that's so important for positivity and empowerment. I know for myself right now, I'm going through some really difficult times, but when I put in an outfit that makes me feel like me, particularly one with sparkles, it improves my mood instantly. So clearly, how you dress affects your relationship with yourself. But how does it affect your relationship with others, and why should we even care? Throughout history, we can learn a lot about how people lived and who they were through dress. On an individual level, this is also true, as we just discussed. Dress is one of the most personal artifacts of our life, and it says a lot about who we are, either way, so we may as well control the image we're putting out there. Essentially, the majority of people will only interact with you for a very brief period of time, so clothes give visual clues about who you are and help you make connections with others. Okay, so we've lost power for a little bit there and the light has changed slightly, but we will power on. While it is lovely to think that your personality will shine through, this will only be true for the lucky few who get enough time with you to really get to know you. Most people will never get that opportunity and won't know how much they missed out on. You never know who you're going to meet, and when you dress in a way that truly represents who you are and who you want to be, it helps those like-minded people find you and become your friend, boss, or spouse. How you dress can also be used to differentiate yourself from others and communicate who you are on an individual basis by highlighting what makes you unique. Studies by Butler and Rosal in 1989, as well as the Massouf and Heffron and Vingelite and Cataru studies we've been discussing, have demonstrated that fashion can be used to communicate individual characteristics. As Massouf and Heffron write, fashion was used by participants as a visual representation of individual characteristics, likes and dislikes, and attitudes and way of life. It can also be used to communicate your belonging in certain groups, a way of saying who your people are and who you stand with. Some of the same studies I mentioned before, as well as others by Krause and Mendez in 2014 and Calagiani in 2021, have found dress an effective means to avoid social rejection and cultivate a shared identity within a community. It can also be used to communicate to outsiders your belonging in certain communities, where a community can be a hobby, a religion, an economic status, any group to which you could belong. If you've ever worn a uniform for work or school, you'll most likely understand what I'm saying here. It's a fantastic way to form connections with others, and I would venture to say it's largely how men approach dress. As illustrated by one man quoted in the Massouf and Heffron paper, when you go past the collective identity, you get slated for it, or the piss taken out of you for a bit. I think a lot of men could confirm this experience anecdotally. And people do pick up on these visual clues, whether they're accurate or not. One study by Gillith et al. In 2012 found that participants could accurately judge someone's age, gender, income, attachment anxiety, and other personality characteristics based purely on the shoes they wear most often. Now, I referred to this study in my previous video, and it still blows my mind that just from someone's shoes, you can get that much information, and it's accurate.
Shoes. Your shoes are comfortable. Bye.
Studies by Butler and Rosal in 1989 and 1991 examined students' assessments of teachers based on their dress. And it was found that students assessed teachers that were dressed more casually to be more approachable but less knowledgeable than those teachers dressed formally. Studies by Belling in 1994 and 1995 replicated these studies, but with teachers' assessments of students. Oops. I lost my bow for a bit there. So dress is clearly a powerful form of communication with others. It allows you to assert your own individual identity, as well as selectively identify with certain communities, movements, and beliefs. The extent to which individuality versus belonging is important will depend on your individual life circumstances, and therefore you are even communicating something about your life by how you dress. As such, you should dress how you want to be perceived, communicating clearly who you are, where you belong, and what you're capable of.
Don't dress for the job you have, dress for the job you want to have. So now, Manny,
tomorrow I'll show up for work dressed as a Mexican wrestler.
Logically, how you are perceived also affects how other people treat you. With your dress, you can tell people, consciously or subconsciously, how you want to be treated. If you dress in a way that conveys self-respect, you encourage others to respect you and treat you in such a way. How others treat you can then affect how you treat others. A consistently unwelcoming reception by others will eventually lead you to see people as cold, unsympathetic, uncaring, whatever the unfavorable adjective may be. But the opposite is also true. A more welcoming reception will lead you to believe people are good, friendly, enjoyable to be around, etc. In turn, this will begin to impact your social life and your outlook on life in general. Now, it's not the only factor that impacts your interactions with others, but it does have a surprisingly significant effect. Overall, dressing in a style that expresses who you are is a triumphant salute to your self-knowledge, your skills, and your potential. It allows you to assert control over your self-perception as well as how others perceive you, making it easier to make meaningful connections with others and take on the various roles needed to thrive in this world. Now, this video did rely on a small subsection of the research out there, but if you did enjoy this approach, please let me know in the comments because I will bring you more research-based videos in the future. So that's all from me. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I wish you all the very best in dress.